Everyone, those of you here, those locked on your various devices, once again, I am pleased to be speaking with you, albeit through this medium, and I thank you for joining us. So UNC family, welcome. UNC friends, welcome. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining our meeting today. And I really must take a moment. I was listening to our young candidate, or new candidate for Davis South, and he was exceedingly impressive. In fact, I was hearing it on the radio capture, and I wondered what's going on. This is something like a radio broadcast, like a person who would normally speak on the radio. So can we congratulate him and wish him the best? When he came to the screening committee, he impressed the entire screening committee. And I think we made the right decision after screening all. But let us thank those who offered themselves. All the nominees who came forward, they were all brilliant, hardworking people, and they have committed to support our candidate for that Davis South seat. So let's thank them all. Let's thank the former councillor who passed away nearly a year ago. And this Davis South election, remember, we had to take the PNM kicking and screaming all the way to the polls because they refused to call this election. Almost a year. They only did it. I wrote a pre-action letter last year. Another dunce AG saying we can't have it, have his lawyers writing to say, no, we can't do a by-election because we have COVID, we have a pandemic. But hell, they had 2 elections in Tobago, 2. And they couldn't do 1 by-election in Trinidad. And it's not the first time they've done this, They have a history of undemocratic representation. We saw in Tobago, our deputy leader spoke of it, JJ, they had Tobago on this tie, will not use the law to break the tie, try to gerrymander the boundaries on the law, they still lost. They still lost, got wiped out in Tobago. And that too, their history of not wanting to call local elections. I remember I said to you last week when I spoke with you that, for years, from 2003 till 2010, they never called local elections which were due. They didn't call them. Why? Because they were worried that they will lose in those elections. They kept postponing 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When we get to 2010, thank God the government changed. We were in government, and I ensured immediately after the general election that in July of 2010, we called the local elections for the whole country. So here we are. I wrote the pre-action letter. We have Anand Ramlogan. He filed the court case on behalf of a person who lives in Davis South. And lo and behold, the case is about to come up for hearing. And what did they do? They put a date for the election. So this government has nothing to do with keeping the law, with upholding the law of the land. Their way is to bully, terrorize, despotic dictatorship government. And that's what we saw yesterday. I want to strongly condemn the government for the use of tear gas. People were peacefully demonstrating, Deputy Leader told you, JJ, peacefully demonstrating at Queen's Park, Savannah, against the dictatorship of the Rowley government. They were standing up for their rights, their freedoms, fundamental rights. And what they do? Tear gas them. Tear gas these people. I think we should be really, really terrified that this government has taken us down the road to what is happening in Venezuela. What was happening in Venezuela? Tear gassing your own citizens for standing up for their rights, man. How much lower, how much more dictatorial and despotic? JJ called to find out who gave that instruction and why. I want you to look at these videos to see what went on in the Queen's Park Savannah yesterday, please.
This is craziness. Sunday, my neighbor died next door. So we decided to go Hilo to get some stuff for the wake. Unknowing that, I don't know what is going on by the Savannah. Police and the government threw tear gas while I was passing with my vehicle. 2 daughters and my grandson just got tear gas in our face. It came through the van and locked in. Burn up our face. Couldn't even see to drive, but had to get out of there. This is total chaos. This is an innocent innocent bystanders, rather people protesting. They have freedom of speech and freedom of right. We were innocently passing. My 4-year-old grandson. This is craziness. People, wake up. Wake up. This is craziness. My eye was burning. I'm the driver. I couldn't see. And I have a baby, my grandson. Look, my niece, my daughter, and my 4-year-old. I was driving blindly to get out of there. This was done by the police, and they are off under the government. Total chaos. I am so disappointed. So disappointed. We were innocently driving.
All right. Where your father, man? Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Innocent person, innocent citizen to be subjected to that kind of treatment. And if we look at the headlines today, every newspaper, you know, sometimes you get a headline on the front page, every newspaper, tear gassed, Express, 11 held at pushback walk. Newsday, that was the Guardian, and the Newsday, tear gassed. Do you know when was the last time tear gas was used in this country? It wasn't in World War I or World War II. The last time tear gas was used in our country was in 1975. And do you know when that tear gas was used in 1975, what was happening? There was a, please someone take this. Yeah, in 1975, there was a walk, a march for peace, bread, and justice. There was a march for peace, or you say bread, peace, and justice. That was in 1975. There was a religious march for bread, peace, and justice. And that turned into Bloody Tuesday after violent police suppression by the PNM. Again, 1975. People were marching for bread, peace, and justice. And guess what? That gave birth to our party. Some people, I think Kirk will remember that. It gave birth to the ULF, which morphed into what we have now as the UNC. Because that's what they were doing. They were marching for their rights, for bread, peace, and justice. And that turned out to be a Bloody Tuesday thereafter. That day turned into Bloody Tuesday in 1975. Where are we going? Prime Minister Rowley, where are you taking this country? What is this you want to do? Do we want to end up like Venezuela? It seems Venezuela is no better than Trinidad. Huh? Because I read somewhere about 1,000 Venezuelans are going back to Venezuela. They're running from Trinidad. They're running from Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister, what are you doing? Someone sent me a little WhatsApp with an article from the BBC World Service. And the headline is, How a Tear Gas Canister Changed the Course of the Life of Fabiola Campiali. How it changed her life. This was a factory worker in Santiago, Chile. She was blinded when she was hit with a tear gas canister fired by a police officer. What she did next landed her a place in Chile's history books. Now this is very, very important. The police brutally tear gassed their citizens on the instructions of some higher up. And I'm sure this thing that took place yesterday, I don't believe that the police did it all on their lonesome. Someone high up intervened. JJ told you, Deputy Leader JJ told you they were going, Satan, Rowley, move. And that's when it happened. So this dictator wants no one to speak out, to stand up for their rights. I say again, I condemn what took place at Queen's Park Savannah. And we must not forget it in the same way that Fabiola Campiali, her life changed the history of Chile. You know why? She got blinded by the leaden canister. And I saw some of the videos coming out of the Queen's Park yesterday. citizens posting and so on. And where people were saying they held it up, it was a leaden gas canister. And should that, the guy said, it was yesterday, I only found this thing in Chile today, about Chile. He said, if this hits me here, I'm dead. So this tear gas has a leaden gas canister. If it hits my eye, I go blinded. And this is what happened to this lady in Chile. And what she did, there were waves of protests, violent clashes across Chile, as people demonstrated against inequality between the rich and the poor in the country. Tensions rose between security forces and protesters, and tragically, during the demonstrations, more than 30 people lost their lives, with thousands more being injured. Fabiola didn't take part in the protest, but, as she always did, she worried about the impact on those living around her in Chile's capital city. One night in November 2019, she was heading to a night shift at the factory where she worked. She heard that the protests had died down for the day, but what she didn't know was that the police had not yet pulled out of the area. So she's on her way to work, she is. That's like the lady you saw in the video there, you know. She was a passerby. She told us what happened. So she was walking down the street, this Fabiola lady. Guess what happened? A tear gas canister fired by an officer about 50 meters away hit her in the face. These canisters can get incredibly hot. It's estimated the metal cinder would have been about 200 degrees centigrade, which is about 392 degrees Fahrenheit, at the moment of impact. She collapsed. The police officer left the scene. Fabiola's neighbors and her sister lifted her in a car. They took her to hospital. And she says, I just remember telling my sister, my face hurts, it hurts. She was put in a coma. She had life-changing injuries. The impact shattered her skull, and she was permanently blinded. When you were doing that yesterday, officers, did you understand whatever gave and whoever gave an instruction? That you put people's lives in grave danger, their health issues in grave danger. On this woman, she was not even in protest, just like that lady you saw in the video. But just an innocent bystander. She says everything was different. This is Fabiola. I couldn't do the same basic things, daily things. For her husband, Marco, it was a very difficult time. He said, I had to look for our children and be strong for our children. But I was broken. It is hard for me to talk about it because I feel a lot of pain and anger. The police officer who threw the tear gas canister is under house arrest, awaiting trial and so on. And then Fabiola became, in November 2021, she became the first blind senator in the parliament in Chile. Changed her life. She took her life and worked for people, to stand up for people and for their rights. And so those people yesterday in Queen's Park, Savannah, what you did yesterday was not in vain. And those who took that action will have to pay for their action. I call for full investigation to be done to determine where and how and when. Who gave that instruction? Is it the same high official who said remove the merit list, the police merit list? Take it back, give it back to Bliss. You know, we say Bliss is ignorance, so there's Bissy Persad. We are in ignorance and that's not Bliss. Who asked for that list to be removed? And here we have this police service commission now, shifting into that point, because everything they do is wrong in this country, you know. So you have high officials intervening there. I'm asking, investigate and let the country know who gave that instruction. And hello, before you even went there, you went prepared. That tear gas was taken to the Queen's Park Savannah. That tear gas didn't arrive on the scene. The police went with it. Who gave you that instruction? Who told you to tear gas your own citizens, man? Where did you get that instruction? The country deserves to know where that instruction came from. And so I was talking about the Police Service Commission now. And it's supposed to be an independent institution. They are now saying, yes, we are not going to use that merit list from last year, 2021. Have they given any legal reason? Have they given any explanation why they will not use a list that was compiled? Once again, is it that this government and this prime minister, they want a hand-picked police commissioner? So they got rid of the one who was there. They said, take back your list, Bliss. Not going along with that merit list because you don't want the people who were listed there. The country you owe the country an explanation why you are not going to use a list that was a valid list. So are you are you the beck and call of the Prime Minister and the government? You deserve to give us, and we deserve to get, an explanation. Give us the legal advice. Have you sought legal advice which says you could just tear up that list and throw it away? That list is sitting somewhere there in that commission, Police Service Commission. Why are you jettisoning that? Why are you throwing it away? Why are you tearing it up? This is a country that operates on law. But again, from the top down, are lawbreakers. We see the lawbreakers. You see, this man stands up in talking about setting up a committee for safe zone and quasi-safe zones and whatever it is he did. And he tells us, the man is so bold-faced and brass-faced, he goes on national TV for the whole country to see, and what he tells us. Look at it.
I was in Castaro last week
what he told this country.
in a vehicle. I went into a place that sold beers, and I had a beer. And on my way to the vehicle, I had this beer in a container, a plastic bag, which it was in. And it was such a hot and beautiful day. I sipping my beer, and then somebody came up to me and said, "You, consumption of alcohol in a public place is against the law. So you missed the opportunity of seeing me behind bars for breaching." It happened so easily, but it was a breach of the regulations.
So the Prime Minister has admitted to
So
breaking the law.
you missed the opportunity of seeing me
One law
behind
for the
bars.
PNM and Rowley, there's another law for the rest of the country. That breach of the regulation incurs a liability of a fine of $5,000. For the ordinary person, yesterday you had them tear-gassed, but the Prime Minister said, hey, that's a joke, you know, hey, I broke the law, it was such a hot day and so on. But everybody else, one law for you. You get locked up, you get fines, you have to pay them. Faris Alwari, another lawbreaker. Again, you saw him on national television, hand wrestling, when the regulation says distance, social distance. They could break the law with impunity, and it's a joke. He said we missed the opportunity of seeing him behind bars. Well, I don't even want to see you outside of the bar or inside the bar, but I don't want to see you, because you have brought this country to its knees, and people are suffering. So look at you. You agreeing that you broke the law. So I wonder what the police are doing about this. What is the TTPS doing? You see, that's why they want their own hand-picked commissioner and deputy commissioner, so they'll give instructions. So I call on the police to investigate this matter. We have a man blatantly, openly admitting he broke the law, and nobody's saying squawk. Nobody says anything. But yesterday, you go out there and you tear-gas people. One law for them. You know, there's a saying, they say some people are equal, but the PNM family, friends, and finances, they are more equal than everyone else. You have a man admitting to breaking the law. They're fighting on everybody to obey the law. So what are you going to do with this admission? Is there going to be an investigation into the breach of the law? And what's going on with the Pelican Brief? What's going on with that? You have, again, they're condoning their friends, their finances, and their children. The son of a minister, condoning their actions, breaking the law. One law for the PNM and their friends and family and finances, another law for the rest of the country. So I raised that issue with you, and they say in his own words. They're not my words. You saw him, you heard him tonight on that video. And then I mentioned about the Police Service Commission, that the way they're operating, when their names came to us in the Parliament, you all remember that? We raised serious objections to some of the persons who were being nominated to sit on the Police Service Commission. Do you all remember that? We said, listen, look, this person, she's closely associated with Rowley's apartment, townhouse in Tobago, the Inez Gate. You all remember that? This person is closely associated with Rowley's friend, Mr. Warner, of Ines Gate fame. She cannot be there and therefore seem to be transparent and independent. And we had issues with many of the other commissioners, and then the first thing you do is you tear up the list, pelt it away with no explanation, and say, hey, listen, we're going to start this whole process all over again. All over again. When the whole thing had been gone through. And on top of that, to make matters worse, they filed in the Parliament new orders for the selection of a Commissioner of Police and for Deputy Commissioner of Police. They filed new orders under the law. Because remember that Dunce AG, his last order from 2021 last year, again Anand Ramlogan took them to court, and the court struck down that 2021 order. Struck down the order to select commissioner and deputy commissioners. So they filed a new order in Parliament. And we in the opposition, both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, we have filed what is known as a motion to annul those orders. So they rushed it though. They used that this is new order. They have used it already to appoint Mr. Jacob, and I cast no aspersions on Mr. Jacob. They used that to run and appoint Mr. Jacob as an acting commissioner of police, when those regulations are still for debate in the Parliament, both in the Senate, I said, and in the House. Still there for debate, so that we can examine what this Dunce AG has done again. He's created this new order, and we have to examine and debate it. So I want to remind members of the Police Service Commissioner, you are not above the law. What you're doing is illegal. By scrapping that merit list, you are acting outside of the law. And you're going to have to go to court and answer as to why. So you better come now and tell us you are not above the law. Tell us why you took a decision. Did you get legal advice? What advice did you give yourself to arrive at a decision to scrap the merit list that was already prepared and ready to go? Why? You owe us an explanation, members of that Police Service Commission. So we saw Mr. Rowley again in his press conference talking about an investigation. He has set up a committee, a few members of the committee, and the biggest joke, he has given them 7 days. 7 days, okay? This committee is to investigate about 6 things in the terms of reference and so on, about the COVID challenge. Now, we call it the COVID charade. I have been calling since last year, before the deaths had reached this over 3,000 mark. I have been calling, we have been calling for a commission of inquiry into the management of the COVID crisis. And guess what went on? Rowley comes up, he gets this bright idea. He says, okay, we'll set up a committee, a hand-picked committee again. To do what? What can you possibly do in those 7 days? This 7-day wonder committee. What can you do in 7 days? You have no powers, you have no jurisdiction, you have no legal authority to summon witnesses. None. You have no jurisdiction, no power, no legal authority to demand documents to see them. So what will you do? When you're marching to wherever, whichever hospital or healthcare system, what are you going to do? Doctors busy running up and down, nurses trying to save lives. What are you going to do when they refuse to give you the information that you're seeking? You have no power. Get that clear in your mind, you know. These persons on this committee, they have no power whatsoever to do anything. That is why we called for the Commission of Inquiry since last year, because a Commission of Inquiry in law has the power, has the jurisdiction, has the legal authority to summon witnesses who have to come, and they must come. They must take an oath and give evidence on oath. What are you afraid of, Mr. Rowley? What is wrong with the Commission of Inquiry? Why cannot the public see this Commission of Inquiry that will do its work in the public? You can have public hearings, people on the oath giving evidence. That's what you need. You know, United Kingdom, they have agreed to a Commission of Inquiry into the COVID management. What is the government afraid of? And therefore, I feel this committee better rethink their remit and should rethink whether it should sit on that committee. Because I think you're going to be used as a puppy show. The whole thing is a charade, it's a puppy show. That you're going to have these people with 7 days with no powers to do anything. You have these persons Very great people. I have nothing against any of them. Maybe brilliant people with good intentions. But the road to hell is always paved with good intentions. So you do not have the jurisdiction to do this big job, and further you have 7 days. 7 days to do all these things. It's really, really a frightening situation. That's the best the Prime Minister could come up with. And then he holds his press briefings really. What does he do? It's like he's giving you a little bit of crumbs, you know. Oh, listen, we open the beaches, but only until what? Noon. We open them like, oh, we keeping the beaches up now. You could go up till 2 o'clock. But don't play no music. I never knew that music used to cause COVID. Anybody here knows that? That if you put on music, I thought music was a thing to soothe you and relax you and feel good. No music. No alcohol, but guess what? The man tell us he on the beach in Castara. And that's what he's doing, breaking the law. So he comes with these little lies to make you feel he's giving you something. And on top of that, what else? Oh, we could have a kind of restricted carnival. Yeah, so he comes, you know, drip, 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 and he wouldn't do what is necessary. I think he has good intentions too, but they are so incompetent. And the advisors have called for the removal of this failed propaganda team that they have, the health team. This team, Parasram and Abdul and blah, 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 that team you see on the charade and every press briefing about the COVID. You have failed. You have failed. Give up the job. Give somebody else. There are brilliant people in this country. You have shown clearly that whatever you have been doing was wrong. When it is, we are over 3,000 deaths in our country. And we are the highest number in the region and in the world. Little Trinidad and Tobago. I used to always say, you know, Barbados has better growth rates than us. Other Caribbean countries, you look at their GDPs higher than ours. You look at their infrastructure better than ours. And what it is, they don't have gas, they didn't have oil, they didn't have natural gas, they didn't have oil, they didn't have those resources. That's why you know what it is? What they also do not have is a PNM. And that's why they're always able to do better than us. Because we have a PNM, incompetent, waste of time government. Every time. The Prime Minister, not only these people do not have the legal power to summon witnesses and documents and so on. The Prime Minister, in my respectful view, has prejudged the matter. In other words, he has given what it is they're going to find. That is why I think JJ said the committee is set up just to put a nice plaster on everything to make the government look good. The Prime Minister himself told the country that the healthcare is the best care. Our healthcare is the best. So he's setting up the committee and tell them, all right, go there and investigate. But guess what? This is the best. Ours is the best. You have prejudged the matter. You have closed your mind to it. And so these investigators, again, I say, rethink that you may be damaging your reputation by taking this puppet string from Rowley. And you feel so busy, you're doing so good and so on. You think you're doing good. You want to do good. But given the confinement and the restrictions I've outlined, you will not do well given those restrictions. And then when we even look at the terms of reference of this committee, there are more questions than answers. For example, term 1 states that this committee is to identify the profile of COVID patients who have died, identify them by gender, age, ethnicity, and comorbidities. Are you telling me after more than a year that that failed PR propaganda team that you have, they don't have this data? What were they doing for the whole year? When they come every week for their breast briefing and put it up chart and statistics and things. Hey, don't you already have this data? Don't you have data who died from COVID according to gender? Is it male or female? Death certificate tells you that right away. It says male, female. Age, death certificate says that too, as far as I can remember. Comorbidities, the death certificate will tell you as well. If not, this data will be there in the healthcare system. So this is already available to the chief medical officer and the medical team. You don't really need a whole committee. Hey, by the way, are you paying these committee members? I think the country would like to know how much they are being paid for this 7-day wonder job that they have to do. When we look at term 3, that is even more puzzling. It states as its objective to examine the admission, discharge, and transfer, this is the ADT policy, and procedures to find out the impact of any of these things on clinical outcomes. Now, this is absolutely shocking. To learn that over 3,000 deaths later, a review of the ADT policy, which is the admission, discharge, and transfer policy. You're now reviewing this thing. You're now going to review this ADT policy. You're going to let that happen now after over 3,000 deaths. You were not looking at that before. What were you doing? What was this team doing? This high-profile team, you already have your medical team with the CMO. That is now going to take place, and that speaks volumes of how the parallel healthcare system is being managed. Term 4 now. Term 4 speaks to appropriate staffing levels and accessibility of necessary medicines. 3,000 deaths later, you now going and find out about staff and accessibility to medicine. Well, people will tell you. They will tell you when you go into that healthcare system, they don't even have a Panadol to give you. And remember, even before COVID, our hospitals didn't have Panadol, they didn't have medication to give people. So you can imagine the situation. You wait till 3,000 people die, 1 year later, you're not going to find out what staff and medicine. And all this time you had people there, your carnival man in the health authority, that North Central Health Authority, moving senior staff out of the COVID hospital, moving them out, shifting the staff out. You know, going on to talk about staff and medicine, man. Are you for real? Are you serious? Do you really care about anybody in this country? This committee, curiously, has no mandate to determine accuracy of data being collected or determine the testing levels within the hospitals. As I said, we found ourselves 3,000 deaths later, and the highest rate of deaths in the region and in the world. And so this committee, in my view, is not a serious attempt to save lives. It is just another puppy show, a charade, whose only objective, is to shield Keith Rowley and his team from responsibility for their failings. I again repeat my call for a full commission of inquiry. If you're serious, it's not too late. A full commission inquiry, which should be tasked in law with full jurisdiction, with the powers to summon witnesses, to get data, to get documents, and all of this will be produced in an open forum, public forum, for John public to see. And together with that, they will be on oath. The witnesses will have to give evidence on oath before a commission of inquiry. And we talk about deaths. Let's move to some of the saddest moments in the lives of every person, which is when a loved one dies. When a loved one dies is one of the saddest moments. I can tell you I've had a lot of loved ones I've lost, loved and lost, and you never forget them. I think everybody will tell you that, whether it's your mother, your father, sister, or your brother. You don't forget. That stays, that pain stays with you. Can you imagine how much more horrendous it is now? When a loved one, your loved one passes away, you keep them in a facility somewhere, and hey, who paying for that? You know. They will keep you there for how long, however long, that body. Not releasing the bodies of the dead ones who died from COVID to their families. And this has particularly impacted on the Hindu community, which is a large segment of our population. A very large segment of the population. And then when you have to do the cremations, 30,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it may be, when if you had that open fire, will be so much cheaper. And of course, in keeping with the religious belief of the Hindus, this is their religious belief and faith. And so I was horrified when I read in the newspaper, Forrest and whoever, they're complimenting themselves, hey, we lift the ban on these open fire restrictions. I was horrified, patting themselves on the back like they did something so great, when they were the ones in the first place who placed that restriction. And they cannot provide a shred of evidence, a shred of science, a shred of data to say why they put that ban on open fire pyre cremations. Why? Up to today, we should not give them a free pass with this. We should not praise them. Oh, they come to this agreement, blah, 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 and they're so happy like pappy. When for a year and more, You lock down this religious ritual to lift it out so they come to make you feel they're giving you something when in the first place they took it away. You took it away, and therefore, I know this is a matter on and again Ram Logan has taken to court. Again, the case was coming up for hearing. So what they do, they run and open up. They say, oh, we moved the restriction. And they want you to praise them for that when they put it there in the first place without any shred of evidence or science. These people for real, it's amazing what they do and feel they could forever get away with it. But every rope has an end, and time is always longer than twine. So we are coming for you, Raleigh. We are coming for your government, and we will not stop until we move you from office. We will move you from office by legal means. We will challenge you in the parliament, outside the parliament, in the courthouse. And so there it is, these people, this suffering. I come from a Hindu family background. I know what it is. That is a closure when your loved one dies. So don't come and mama guy people and make them feel you've done them a great service when you, in the first place, you put this ban. Why? Come and tell the country why, and you will still have to answer in the courthouse. Because even though you've settled and make the Mahasabha feel you've settled with the Mahasabha, there's still the case that Anand has in the court on behalf of a person who lost a loved one. You will have to pay money, damages. And I will ask every citizen who has gone through that inhumane treatment by this government, come forward, let's go to court. They will have to pay you for the suffering that you went through because you could not open fire, cremate your loved ones. Every one of you, you have a case, and there is no, statute of limitations. Am I right, Janti? There's no statute of limitations to say, well, it's too late. So even your loved one died last year, you still have a matter in court. Let's do it. We have the precedent, and I know Anand is going to win that case, and they will have to pay the family. So I'm asking you, come to any MP's office, we'll take your names, bring your loved one, bring the death certificate of your loved one, and we will take it up in court. We will stand with you. Deputy Leader told you that, we will stand with you. The UNC will stand up for you, with you, and stand for your rights. So don't be afraid. Come forward. We can only help you if you come. The good Lord says, the Lord helps you, but only if you help yourself. So you have to make that first step. You have to come. Come forward. And so I say to this government, one, you must apologize. Don't come and smile and take picture about you. You lift the ban on these things. You should apologize to the population, to the national community for discriminating so openly against the Hindu population, and any other population would use open fire cremations. In fact, those who are not Hindus, they also use it because it's a far cheaper form of disposing of the remains of your loved one. So first of all, I agree with the editorial of the Express. The Express editorial, I think they agreed with me. I had put out a statement, and remember it was only last month there, right here on this platform, with this podium, on the UNC platform, I said the government has to rethink and review and revise the ban. Hey, within 2 days they did it, but that's not why. You think they listen to me? In fact, I think they will do the opposite of anything we say. But Anand had the case in court, and the case was coming up for hearing. So they think they could scuttle that case is not scuttled, it will go forward. And you will be found wanting. Wrong AG. Once again, wrong, lost. Hey, the AG has lost another case, by the way, hasn't it? You remember in 2017, I'll ask you all to get the video, I don't know if you got it. 2017, I stood on a UNC platform, we had these tax, property tax issue. And I took the valuation form and I did that, ripped it apart, and I said it is illegal. It is against the law for that AG and that government to be asking you to fill out the valuation forms. That was in 2017, and they'd use a section of the law. I want to congratulate Anand Ramlogan again, like tonight and this week, this month, in fact, is Anand's month. Anand won that case in court as well, where he challenged the illegal actions by the government. And of course, Faris lost the case again. Another loss to you, Faris. But you know, when he loses, I told you that last week, you lose. Because when they have to pay the costs, you think Faris taken from his rental money to put it there? No, 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 no. It is your taxpayers' dollars. Every time he loses a case in the court, your taxpayers' dollars will go to pay the cost, the legal costs of those matters. So we see all these things happening all the time. I raise that property tax that they did, and when you watch that dunce AG, I'm sorry to be calling him dunce, but you feel like really dunce here. Total dunce. When you hear him speak, all this flowery language, even his own members get bored with him when he has to speak. His own members in the house, because he has this way, he's flowery and flowing and whatever, and surat, and only rat he could talk about. That's the only law he knows. It's the only law he knows. And so, I lost a case again, and you have two more coming that you're going to lose. You will lose this case that Anand has brought with respect to your restriction on the open fires, cremations. You're going to lose that. And you will also lose the case based on your delay and failure to call that by-election in Davis South within a reasonable period. So I know my law. I could talk my law. I don't have no rat in my cupboard. I know about the law of Trinidad and Tobago. I know about the law of Trinidad and Tobago. So my friends, procurement regulations, well, what another sham and farce. We passed this law, procurement, for the first time in the history of this country. Law was introduced to give oversight to everything involving the giving out of government contracts. Everything. The procurement law, we passed it in 2015. You know what these guys did? How many years now? Nearly 7 years. From then, when they came in September 2015, they came in 2015. They did nothing to put this law forward, for the law to be implemented. Never proclaimed it. Never. Did not bring the regulations. Well, he brought it last week, and I'll tell you a bit about his sham. That's another charade in itself. The regulations. But I've said they did nothing to implement. But you know what they did? You know what they did? They came twice to the Parliament to gut out the procurement law, to take out very serious matters out of the procurement law that will not be, there will be no oversight of those processes and contracts. So you know one of the things they took out? Actually, dunce AG again. They took out legal services. So that AG could continue to do what he wants, hire whom he wants, how he wants. All the state agencies, hire friend and family, hire a wife, hire the wife. AG's wife was hired by the Prime Minister to do something and that. I don't know if she even, it was something to fight children down. Something to fight down about scholarships, if I'm not mistaken, for children. To fight down AG's wife. Look, I have no problem with you and your wife, son. But you know what? I have serious problems when it comes to taxpayers' dollars being used for your friends, your family, and your finances. So they removed from the procurement law legal services. Why? So the PNM will continue to do what they want when it comes to hiring people for legal services. Why? And then they also remove from the procurement law, they remove financial services. Why? Well, we have the recusal twin. Don't forget, Farah is one side of the twin. The other side is Stuart Young. And that whole cabinet is a recusal cabinet. I wish they'll recuse themselves from government and just get the hell out of here. Just go. Just go. And so we have Stuart Young, his brother and his father and his family, maybe not his father, but certainly his brother, in NCB Global Finance, millions of dollars. Financial services, you pull that out too. So Faris recused himself, free. Yes, legal services, and then you remove financial services. And the recusal twins are very happy, smiling all the way to the bank. So I was talking to you about the procurement regulations. So they took out these two very major limbs from the procurement law. Now they come finally 7 years later with regulations. And I want to congratulate and thank, and I hope, boy, you don't also walk after I congratulate and thank you. But I want to thank the procurement regulator himself, because it's him and his department who were mainly responsible for the drafting of these regulations. They have done a great job in drafting the regulations. So the concern is not in the wording of the regulations. The concern is in the implementation of the regulations. Like everything else from this government, they talk a lot, they do a lot. When JJ mentioned, I heard JJ talking about Andrea Barrett and Miss Riley, the young woman who died and so on. Remember after Andrea Barrett, big hooray, 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 hooray. Same done say, gee, pepper spray. Where's the pepper spray law? What has happened to that pepper spray law? So when things happen, they have a knee-jerk reaction. Immediately run out, yeah, we're going to do it. And it never gets done. So where's that pepper spray? And now you people crying out and talking to you about procurement. So you bring the regs. And guess what? The man himself, the regulator himself, a public accounts committee that is chaired by MP Tanku in the parliament, they questioned him. The meeting took place this week, it was, well, during last week. And he tells us, look, listen to this, can you believe? That out of 314 public bodies, public entities, as ministries and state enterprises and so on, who are the ones who are to give out the contracts for anything. Out of 314 of these, only 70 responded when they were asked to report on their readiness to implement the legislation. Only 70. So the majority of the state, companies, state enterprises, statutory authorities, and ministries have not responded. Can you imagine that? They have not responded to tell the regulator their state of readiness for implementation. He told further to this committee, out of those, only 20 had a proper code to conduct public procurement. So 20 out of 314. So is the government for real? Are you serious? So is that a puppy show, another charade in the parliament to say, look, we're finally going to bring this procurement law. And then really you had 7 years for implementation, and only 20 of these 314 government and governmental bodies, they reported to say that they had a code of conduct for procurement. So it's not going to happen. It's another charade, as I say, a puppy show to make you feel that the government is doing something, when indeed they were doing nothing. I am very proud that it was my government placed on our statute books the public procurement law. And Rowley, you all could run, but you cannot hide. We are going to move you from office, and we will ensure that proper procurement takes place in Trinidad and Tobago. You have gutted out the law. We will replace those, remove what you've taken out, and put it back into the law. I said every rope has an end, and time is longer than twine. You're not going to be there forever. And if we have our way, and we work hard in the UNC and elsewhere, we can move them before their time, politically move them within the law. We can do it. So let us commit together. Let us commit that we will continue to work together to take our great party forward. We have a great opportunity on the 7th of February, again, to dip your finger in the ink and vote for Kemraj, the UNC candidate for DB South. So the job continues, the work continues, and I want to thank all of you who have stayed with us through the course, and those of you who have committed to continue to work with us. And when I heard MP Vandana speak to us earlier, very bright young ones, the young ones are really coming forward, so I want to thank MP Vandana for what she said tonight in sharing with you the suffering. The suffering, we forget sometimes. When I heard her say, a gentleman came to see her at her office, and he said, I'm a taxi driver. He said, I'm going to take 3 passengers. Do we even think how that is affecting his life and that of his family? So we forget, she said, oh God, well, yes, we know a lot of people have lost their jobs thanks to this wicked government. A lot of jobs have been lost. And then even those who hold on by the skin of your teeth, you cut down the numbers in the car, 3 people. So his income is again reduced, Vandana. And that is a level of suffering as MPs that comes to our attention all the time. And you talked about the food hampers and the fresh food hampers. I really don't know what it is they're up to. And I said it last month, and I will repeat. I believe they spent out the money in that Tobago elections. They do not have the money to make these payments for the rest of this fiscal year. So what do? Ms. Cox says she's investigating fraud. But who is running the fraud? Are you not in charge? You have fraud going on for a whole year. And you don't know, find that out. You have to stop everything to check out the fraud. I think that is fraud by itself. What you're doing is a fraudulent way of stopping the program when in fact you all spent all the money in Tobago and still lost the election. So be real, Ms. Cox. I like you very much. You're a great person. Good looking lady too. Nice girl, bright. But that's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Just like your failed medical team put on all their pretty clothes and line up in front of the camp. That's not good enough. And then you call our citizens, they're too greedy. Do you know what it is to do without food? I tell you, I know. I had that experience growing up. My family was a poor. I know what it is. 6 children in a house. And you can't get a proper meal. Can't get a proper meal. Where we were creative. Fortunately, we lived in the countryside. So we had a lot of fruits. And the neighbors were quite willing to let us get the mangoes and whatever it may be. And because we lived in the countryside, we would plant things that we could eat. So that helped too. But Ms. Cox, I wonder if you know what it's like for people living on the corridor, living in these barracks, small places, no land to even plant, and no neighbor that is even planting something, what it is to do without a meal. That when people came for the hampers, you call them greedy. That is downright disgusting and humiliating to any citizen in our country. And I strongly suggest, Ms. Cox, you should apologize for that statement. You haven't done so yet, you still have time. No statute of limitations there too. You can do it anytime. You should apologize for branding our citizens greedy and do your job as best as you can. So Vandana, thank you for sharing with us. Where's Vandana? Somewhere there. Yeah. Thank you very much, MP. And let me thank Councillor Nicholas for his chairing of our meeting. And again, you see the young ones. I remembered Vandana was one of the young ones. Councillor Nicholas has a long way to go. And our new councillor incoming, what Jillian said, she said he has a long road to travel. Bright and brilliant young people committed to the UNC. We thank you very much. So when you come in, each one bring 1, bring 2, bring 3, bring 4, bring more. We need the youth. We need the youth. Whilst Nicholas praised me, I'm going strong and so on. That's very true. But we need the youth and the vigor. And I could see it when you all speak. We could hear it. Your strength, your energy, and your commitment, and how genuine Mr. Kemraj, your candidate. I told you I was so impressed. I started the meeting by congratulating you. And I asked you, I think I sent you a text. I said, go brave and bring that seat with a very large margin of victory. So God bless you. Thank you all very much. And may God bless Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much.
The people's revolution. This is the revolution. I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution. Come on, people. Come on. Come on, people. Let's move. Come on, people. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy.